Hey everyone, this is Chelsey and welcome to another Creative Design Team video. This month we are talking all about embellishing and specifically creating clusters of embellishments. I hope you will enjoy all the videos the team are putting out. There's 2 out already, which I will have linked below, and the rest will be coming later this week. For my single page layout today, I'm starting with a 12 by 12 sheet of White Daisy cardstock. And I'm using my T-ruler and a pencil here to draw lines 3 inches from both ends to help me guide where the stamping needs to go, and so hopefully I can get it in a somewhat straight line. I'm also using intense black ink and the May stamp of the month, which is Flowers for You, and this beautiful floral border image. I chose to use intense black ink because I wasn't sure how I wanted to color these yet, or even if I wanted to color them. And the intense black actually works really good with both alcohol markers, watercolors, pretty much any coloring medium you want to use with it. You can see here I have my 2 borders, and now I'm going to use a piece of patterned paper. From the Eat, Play, Love collection, I'm using up the very tail end of a kit. So I'm using kind of whatever scraps I have left. Some of them are kind of weird shapes, weird sizes, but I'm going to make it work. So I'm just figuring out how I want everything layered, and I'm using a distressing tool to kind of rough up those edges and create a little bit of texture. My goal here was to kind of make my photos look a little bit whimsical. I wanted just little corners of each of those patterns peeking out from behind the photos. And the red pattern and that yellow pattern that you see there are exclusive papers that just come in the workshop kit. I will also link everything that I'm using here down in the description box in case there's something that you're looking for. The idea for this layout was actually sparked by something that I saw on Pinterest, so I will make sure to link that down in the description box as well, so if you want to check it out and see what initially inspired this. Now that I have the placement of my photos, I'm going to move on to creating my clusters. I'm using these 4-inch doilies from Wilton that I got in the cake section at Michael's, and those are going to be the bases for my clusters. When I'm building clusters of embellishments, I do like to have layers, and that's kind of how I think of it when I'm planning them out. What's going to be my base layer, what's going to be my middle layer, what's going to be my top. And then just depending how high I want to go is how many layers I have. So you can see I started with something very flat, the paper doily. Then I will build up from there using different thicknesses of foam tape to help me get dimension. This adorable mason jar and the cute little saying that's inside come from the Eat, Play, Love card making stamp and thin cuts. I absolutely love this, and I think it just fits so perfectly with my layout. Now you can see I'm starting to add some stickers. When I'm using stickers from a sticker sheet, I like to trim around them and leave them on the backing, and that way I can kind of just move them here and there. I'm also adding some wood hearts. That big wood heart at the bottom is going to be moved on and off and on and off. I cut a lot of that out, a lot of my fussing with all these different pieces. It's pretty boring, but I just couldn't decide where I wanted it. Now, speaking of moving pieces around, I want you guys to know if this looks super easy and effortless and I'm just plopping all the different elements in the perfect spots or whatever, I went ahead and laid out all my pieces beforehand, and then I took a picture of it, and I'm actually looking at that picture on my computer screen in front of me while I am placing these elements. If you saw a real-time version of me building embellishment clusters, it would be super long and super boring because it just does take time trying different pieces, finding things that are different shaped or similar shaped, and trying to have little sprinklings of the same colors throughout each cluster. All those things take time and just kind of trial and error, putting things here, putting things there, and then I take a step back and look at it and decide if it looks balanced or if one of the clusters needs something different. I also want to have them different sizes. So you can see I kind of have a larger cluster, a medium, and a small. The large and the small are together on opposite sides of the photo, and then the medium is up in that top corner there. For my title, I cut this out on my Cricut, and you can see how I have that nice shadow around the word cheese. I love the offset feature on the Cricut. If you have not used that yet, it's a fairly new feature. Definitely try it out. It works so awesome for titles. Now, the reason it says say cheese is because I am talking about my daughter's first time feeding herself cottage cheese. And that's what the top two pictures are. And then the bottom picture is me as a baby eating cottage cheese, and I loved it. I even got to the point where I would throw it across the room, apparently, which does not sound like a lot of fun for my mom. But I thought it was so fun that I had a picture of me as a baby doing the same thing that my daughter is doing. For the journaling, I typed it up on my computer, and I could have just left it as one block of text, but I like the way it looks in the little strips, and I think it's worth that extra effort. Now I'm going to bring in my TriBlend markers and a couple of Copic markers because I want to add some coloring to that mason jar and also to the rest of my layout. So here I am starting with the aqua blue TriBlend marker, and I'm using the lightest shade. Now this ended up not being as light as I wanted it to. I'm blending it out here with a colorless blender, which is just pure alcohol. And it's just a little bit too difficult to blend, a little bit too deep. So I'm reaching for a Copic marker that is a light blue. It's B000 Pale Porcelain Blue. And that has just the right shade to help blend out that darker aqua blue, and easier for me to fade it out to white with the colorless blender afterwards. So I'm just going to keep going around the edge of this jar, adding some shading. First with the darker aqua blue, blending out with the B000, and then blending it with the colorless blender. I really love how easy these markers are to color with, and it makes it really fun and fast. You don't have to think about what colors you need to blend with each other. It's all together in one marker, and it's fun how all alcohol markers work together. So if you already have some Copics or other brands, they will all play together really nicely. Now I'm going to start adding some red to that heart with the dark red marker, and I'm actually going to start with the darkest shade, and then the medium, and then the lightest. This is actually opposite to what Spectrum Noir recommends, but I found it works really great for me. I love how this jar turned out, and now I'm going to add it back onto the page with some pop dots. I love that Close to My Heart has two different thicknesses of foam dots. There's the thin ones and the thick ones, and it just helps when you're layering all different kinds of embellishments together to have some that are popped up higher and have some that have a little bit less dimension, and then your items that are flat to the page as well. Now you can see here I gave up on adding that big wood heart, and I actually went with a smaller wood heart up above my journaling strips. That big heart was just not meant to be, I guess. I think it was just too big, and there wasn't enough room on the layout for it, so I eventually just had to switch it up and go a different direction, and I like that choice. So I'm going in with the aqua blue, the dark red, the light yellow, and the yellow green are the colors that I'm using here, and they match the paper and all the colors I'm using on this layout perfectly. There are definitely some small areas on all these floral images, so it helps having the bullet nibs on these markers to get into all the tiny little corners, and it makes blending super easy. On small images like these, sometimes I'll only use two colors, so I'll lay in the shadows with the darkest one, and if the light one blends really well, then I will just go straight in with the light one and skip that medium color. If you are new to coloring, I definitely recommend to start with small images like this. It's a little bit less intimidating, and it's a little bit easier to practice and build up your blending skills. Some of those images with wide open spaces can be a little bit intimidating, especially if you're just starting. It can be a little bit trickier to figure out where the shadows should go, where the light spots should go, and if your blending isn't as smooth, it definitely shows up more in those larger images. Now you may be wondering why I didn't color these flowers first before I stuck on the paper and embellishments, but I just couldn't decide if I wanted to leave them black and white or if I wanted to add color. Even right now, as I was coloring in all these flowers, I was wondering if I had done the right thing or if I had just ruined my layout. And lots of times, that's how the creative process goes. There's no roadmap. I only have a general idea of what I want the finished project to look like, and I'm really just kind of making little choices along the way and hoping that they're going to work out in the end. Thankfully, this time I was happy with my choice to color them in. I don't want to think about how difficult it would have been to fix that and change it up with all those beautiful layers of embellishments over top of the stamping. So here's my finished layout. I'm so happy with how it came out, and especially being able to tell this story that ties together my childhood experience with my daughter's. I hope you got some inspiration for adding clusters of embellishments to your projects. And if you want to see even more ideas, make sure you tune into the rest of the videos this week from the creative design team. Tomorrow is going to be Julie. I'm sure she'll be sharing a beautiful project for you, and I will have it linked in the description box once that video is live. And also check out the playlist so that you can see what everyone else on the team is making. Thanks for watching and have a great day.